Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Salustio here after one large triple shot of espresso. So I'm ready to rock and roll here at the Career Education Conference put on by the CECU group. So excited to be here to celebrate the amazing work done in career colleges across the country and be able to highlight our colleagues across the industry. Of course, with me, as always, this week, he's Douglas Carlson. He is the VP. No, I keep saying you're VP, but you're head of partnerships with Lead Squared, soon to be VP.
It's effectively the same thing.
Make this guy VP, Lead Squared, would you? Of course, we're here at the generosity of our great partner and sponsor, Lead Squared. And Douglas, thanks for convincing everybody to get EdUp here. Thanks for your help doing that.
Oh, absolutely my pleasure. It was an easy conversation.
How many people do you have to convince, honestly?
I mean, it was one or two. It was fine.
All right, that's fine. We have a impromptu guest. He's only been around education for a year or two. No, he's been around education for a little bit longer than that, both in the career college sector, nonprofit, higher ed. You will know him when you hear his name. Let's bring him on appropriately. He is Dr. Arthur Keiser. He is the man from Keiser University. What is he these days? And chairman of the board, president, CEO. What's your title? Chancellor. I knew it was one of those. Art has been on as a guest probably 2.5 years ago, and then co-hosted one recently, and then I told Douglas, I said, tackle him and bring him over here, and we got you here. What's going on? How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah?
It's a good conference.
How's life?
Always challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah. As my favorite philosopher was Rosanna Dana. If it isn't something, it's something else.
Isn't that the truth, though? The more things change, what is the saying? The more things change, the more they stay the same.
The more things that stay the same, the more they change.
Yeah, well, Art, you do too much philosophy for me this morning. Tell us about Keiser University. Remind our audience. I think you've got 25 campuses, 17 campuses, maybe somewhere around there. I'm going off of memory.
Good question.
Yeah,
I
only ask good questions.
We have 19 on-ground campuses throughout the state of Florida. Almost every major community, and then we have 2 virtual campuses, our online campus and our graduate school. We have 2 campuses in Nicaragua, and we have a campus in Shanghai, China.
Get out of here.
We now have 13 international partnerships from Sri Lanka to Spain.
And do you get to go to all these places or what?
Yeah, I've been traveling. It's terrible.
You love it. Look at the big smile on your face. Come on.
No, it's funny. In South America, we have a campus in Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia, and you have to take these night flights.
Yeah.
There are no day flights, so it's just exhausting.
What is your favorite campus location outside of the United States?
San Marcos, Nicaragua. We have a residential campus that's really... It's up in the mountains, so you think Nicaragua being very hot. There's always a nice breeze, and we have some of the best students. It's an interesting institution, and it's recognized by the Pope, which is as a Catholic institution, which we're not. And
attention.
That's good. We're just bringing attention to that statement. By the way, I use in-episode sound effects. I had to remind you of that before I...
Well, let me know. I thought it was my stomach rumbling.
No. That's probably Douglas's need for caffeine.
Yeah, I'm on my second cup here.
Attention.
Remind me of this statement. You are the largest private university in Florida? It's something like that, right?
Something like that. It changes depending how you count, but yeah we're between Nova, Southeastern, and us. We're, depending on how it's counted, we have a little over 20,000 students in the state of Florida.
It's amazing.
And we're a not-for-profit independent.
Yep. Maybe that's what it was, the largest non-for-profit independent university in the state of Florida.
Correct.
We got there, yeah. Well, and I'm so curious, what prompted you to look outside the state of Florida? So one strategy might have been to expand to additional U.S. states, but you've taken an international expansion strategy. How did that come up on your radar? What was that thought process? I'm just really curious to learn a bit more.
Well, our first foray international was a person we met. We started a joint venture with Moldova State University.
No
believe it or
kidding,
not,
okay.
in Chisinau, Moldova. Went very well. We're doing IT, and the students would come to us for a semester and go there. And we enjoyed working in that environment. Unfortunately, the rector of Moldova State became the ambassador to Italy, and his vice rector didn't like us, so
Yikes!
they took us out.
Yeah.
And I still own the TOEFL office in Chisinau.
Oh, no kidding.
Which is that and $5 take the $5.
That's funny. Your Dr. Robert Keiser has also been a guest on this podcast a couple of times, and I know you guys are doing a great work with Southeastern College as well. You've got a long list of accomplishments. You've been around. Talk about the state of career colleges today and the state of the sector, because things have been fluctuating.
The independent colleges, and that includes both the for-profit sector and then the nonprofit sector. We are challenged. It's a challenging environment. If you read the press, just this week you had Pittsburgh Technical College, a
Closed.
nonprofit,
Yep.
announced their closure. You had Triangle Tech, which was an 80-year-old family-owned school, the Agrises, I knew very well. They're shutting their doors after 80 years. You've had the College of Art, 150-year-old school out of Philadelphia, closing. Pennsylvania's had a bad week.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
And it is a challenge in the private sector, partly because of, I think, many of the regulations which are making it more difficult and much more expensive to operate, holding us accountable for things that we are not necessarily responsible for. There's some who cite the problems with the changing demographics, the quote enrollment cliff. I don't see it that way. I think it has been more the emphasis on cost,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not looking
And
at
value.
the true cost and the true value of the educational process, and that's scaring kids away. So I think with all the student loan forgiveness, it's devaluing I believe the critical role that higher education plays. I think it's a horrible mistake, and I think these closures, which are critical infrastructure to the future of American higher education, are being dismantled, become affordable housing projects, because they'll take these big campuses and put in apartments and make a lot of money doing it. But it's a shame, because this is the infrastructure for American higher ed.
There's so much there. Douglas, did you want to jump in? Or you
No,
want me to
please keep going.
Because what you say, it means so much to those that have been in the sector for a long time. If you go back 15 years, we saw so many private for-profits and nonprofits close. There was a wave of closures back in the 11, 12, 13, 14. And then fast forward, the career college sector is shrunk a lot because of those
Down
closures.
to 6% of the population.
Right,
So
shrunk a lot. The regulations have not shrunk with that population.
they've geometrically increased.
Yep. So the percentage of regs have increased. The percentage of schools has decreased. But then you see a bunch of private and public nonprofits start closing, and you wonder, okay, this problem is bigger than a sector of higher education. It is a huge higher education problem. We have, and you look at all those things, what's the cycle? Pittsburgh Tech closes. So all the students in that area go, maybe I shouldn't go to school. Maybe I won't go to school. So they're not going to go to the other private. They're not going to go to the for-profit. They're not going to go to the public. Everyone loses when this happens, not just the career schools. It's a bigger problem. And do you think that, I guess my question is, do you think that policymakers understand that this is an everyone problem right now?
No, I don't think so at all. I think the politics are such that, the concept of free education, the concept that higher education should be free, And you'll see a number of states. I think I saw West Virginia just did it, or one of the states that made all their community colleges free. Florida,
Colorado just did it too, I think.
Colorado did it, and again, that's I think it's politics. There's no such thing as a free lunch. I don't think there ever has been, and in fact, Keiser University is made up of those students who went to the community colleges and state universities, and it didn't appeal to them, it didn't work for them. And that's what you'll see in this group of schools. We have focused on the adult learners, and the adult learners typically have been to other institutions before they get to us, and are now focused on a career. Unfortunately, the policymakers see that in a negative light, especially when they own this community college and state universities. I had a meeting with our governor's chief of staff, and I said, why is it, these private sector schools were providing, in Florida, the independent colleges provide 38% of all the baccalaureate degrees, which at one time was considered the key indicator of
the gold standard
of success. Yeah.
Well, for states to progress, for the United States to grow. And he said, and I said, why don't you support it? Because you don't have to spend the taxpayers' money. He says, well, we own the community colleges and the state universities. So very interesting in the way they approach it. And my concern is these closures, as I said, will ultimately be very, very negative for our country.
Go ahead, Ben. I can keep going too.
Yeah, no, I think you are on a roll, so I'm going to let you go.
This is my thing.
Yeah.
Mine too.
It's my thing.
I'm having fun listening.
Obviously.
Back in, I was talking to somebody the other day, and you go back to the 10, 11, 12, and up to 2015. I worked for a university, and part of our strategy at the time was teach outs, right? Because we had the infrastructure and there were enough colleges closing. And I did 8 of them. And that's a skill that people won't get anymore, because you don't need to do formal teach outs. You do transfer agreements, and you hope that the students will go somewhere where their credits are accepted. Except for that, not all schools are taking credits. So these schools are closing, and then the students going somewhere and their credits aren't being taken.
Well, and again, it's more than just that. It's the disruption.
Yeah.
And it is a negative action. And the kids, when they go through a school closure, and I've done a number of trainouts, more than I'd like. I've been sued a number of different times because of, being involved when we had nothing to do with it, but
right.
because the state asked us to come in. I can give you a whole bunch of horror stories. It's fuzzy math. I can give you horror stories about that, but it really hurts the students. It's not a positive experience in any way, and they really don't meet a lot of the students who don't end up at another institution. So and the department has gone. I mean, they just gone the wrong direction. So a lot of teach outs could be avoided if there were institutions who could go in and take over a school.
Yeah.
We had an office in a building in Tallahassee that was owned by, the mortgage was by, I think it was one of the banks in Alabama that went belly up. The FDIC came in. Nothing happened except they changed the name of the bank from Superior to Doral.
Yeah.
And the tenants, everything worked out beautifully. We don't have a system like that for colleges and universities. In fact, the new rules going into effect July 1st make those type of mergers, those type of acquisitions almost impossible.
Very
it almost
hard.
takes 2 years to get it completed. And if you're dealing with an institution, let's say like Pittsburgh, that has financial issues, no one's going to take it on.
Yeah. The banking example is really good. Silicon Valley Bank closed, Stifel Bank comes in, or whoever, I think it was First Bank, then bought those loans over, because you have to
You're protecting the taxpayers.
underwrite those.
Sure.
Right. That was going to happen. It's with schools, right? It's so hard. With the regulations make it hard. The accreditors make it maybe not as hard. The department makes it pretty hard. One of the things that I have noticed, and you probably have too, is, back in 2019-20, the department said there's no more regional accreditors or national accreditors. There's just accreditors. That's not widely accepted yet.
No.
It's more. I recently witnessed a situation where the policy was we're going to accept credits, transfer credits from institutions that were formerly accreditors that were formerly named regional accreditors with a list.
Yeah,
it's still loophole on the regular. Like, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, we call them regional, non-regional agencies. Again, credit transfer has always been an issue, and it's again a sad process because it's you look at an accreditor and you say that one's okay and that one's not okay, and the students do not benefit from that. And all the accreditors have to follow specific standards, and they're different in their approach, different in their culture, but students are getting the same kind of education, and that's always been a challenge. And the more elite schools want to. And there's a financial issue. If I accept credits from a school, I don't get paid.
Right.
Sure.
So it's many cases it's more financial than real. But the whole issue of creating only national accredited institutions, in some respects, I think there's an advantage. Certainly, look at what's happened with the lawsuit in Florida with our governor. He got into a conflict with the regional accreditor with SACS, and he says that you want to tell me how to appoint a president? Fine, I'm going somewhere else. Yeah. So he made all the schools in Florida move to within a 5-year period to move into other accreditors from SACS. So it's interesting, and he could only do that since the Trump administration eliminated that regional.
Right.
I always thought it was antitrust, because they divided the country up into the regions. So, and again, so if Keiser wanted to, I like SACS. I think SACS does a phenomenal job. But if I wanted to go to New England because they have a different set of rules that apply to me, that makes sense.
Can you talk about your policy and advocacy work again, just to remind us, what boards, councils are you sitting on to help the sector in this space that you want to talk about?
Too many.
I know. Well, that's why I want to see if you remember them all.
From the governmental side, I serve on the National Advisory Committee on Institutional Quality and Integrity, I served as chair for 6 years, and I came off chair last year, and I'll continue on. I think my term ends in 26. I serve on the Southern Regional Education Board, which is a policy-making board of the southern states, both in K through 12 and in higher ed. I serve, what else? I serve on the CQ board. I just got reelected as treasurer. I've been chair and been involved
That's
forever.
right. Douglas kicked my mic off earlier.
I did. Yeah.
I serve on the executive committee of the Independent Colleges and Universities of Florida. I don't know, a couple of others. So it's I stay busy.
How long have you been in higher ed?
Keiser University, 47 years. Then I was a TA and in a doctoral program teaching at the University of Florida for a couple of years. So.
And so you're going to be on these boards till 26, 27. You ever going to go put your toes in the sand somewhere?
Well, I'm not a beach person, but I'd probably go up to the mountains. But hopefully, it depends on what my board does at Keiser. I'll, maybe move side for some younger person.
You might, maybe. Yeah. But you can, a little bit longer. The industry would miss you with all of the work.
That doesn't mean I'll disappear. It just might mean I'd be a little less day to day.
Douglas, do you have anything you want to add?
I do, and to kind of close it out, I'd be curious to understand, what do you think are concrete steps that are possible to take that will remedy some of the issues that you've talked about? Like, is there legislation out there that you think makes sense? Is there a model out there that you think makes sense? And obviously there's no silver bullets, but are there things out there you think would drastically address or engage some of the issues you've talked about?
Oh boy, somebody's going to listen to this stuff and get angry at me. But
Never.
I think one of the biggest challenges higher ed faces is the concept of cost
Sure.
and the concept of the use of student loans as the basic underlying financial process in which students can go to school. I think it's a bad process. I think it's a process that's not necessary. Right, especially once we went to direct lending from the private, where the private money was. It's now money coming right out of the Treasury. We could be following, and I've advocated for years, the New Zealand, Australian model, which is a payroll deduction system, that if a student wants to go to school, they can not borrow, they basically take an advance on their income, and the government will advance that money, and each and every year, when you pay your taxes, or you go to your employer and he deducts it from your paycheck. And it's income contingent, which allows it to be affordable for students. And by the end of the age of 65, they will probably pay it off. Most everybody would, because you do have to work to survive in this economy, unless you're never mind. I better watch what I'm saying. But you will pay it off, and if you don't, at 65, the government can forgive. It'd be very small portions and a very small amount, and it'd be, I think, the government can make a lot of money, and the public will benefit greatly. A second issue, and again, is I am concerned about the triad, which is really a quad now. I mean, we've got to really analyze our oversight of higher education. The federal government wants the accreditors to be law enforcement. The states don't want to be involved in accredited schools. The SARA, which made sense, is now being quasi-dismantled. And it's, there needs to be, again, a re-examination. We haven't had a reauthorization since 2008, and we need one to really get people talking about what higher ed's going to look like in the future, because innovation, technology, everything's changing so fast, and our system is not kept up with it.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, everybody. I guarantee this man knows more about higher ed than you do, because he knows a lot. Here he is. He's Dr. Art Keiser. He is the one and only Dr. Art Keiser, Chancellor of Keiser University. Art, thanks for coming back on. Of course, my co-host Douglas Carlson. I'll leave you the music that plays for you. And
we even use Lead Square at Southeastern.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go. Well, that's amazing connections, and it's all about connections, right? And relationships as we help each other serve more students. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you've just ed-upped.